Hello, welcome to another video by Indicator Vault. And in this video, we're going to go over the Momentous Volatility Bands. And you can see here, I have it on the NASDAQ 15-minute chart. And, here on this bottom window, the main part of the indicator, we see these green lines, which are representing the volatility bands. And these are obviously correlating with the volatility in the market. And so, as we see here in this price action, a lot of ranging and some consolidation, correlating with the tightening of the bands here. And then finally, we see the strong down move and the bands get wider, representing a lot of volatility in the market. And then the second part, we see these orange and red lines. And this is measuring the momentum in the market. And so, even here, we do see, a kind of a slow but steady move up, correlating with this move up. And then obviously with this strong down move, we see the momentum bands or lines just plummet. So one way to use this, and actually before I move on, let me mention the alerts. The buy and the sell alerts will correlate when the red line crosses the volatility bands. So for instance, this buy alert correlating when the red line crosses above the volatility band. And then of course we see the sell correlate with the red one crossing below it here. And so in this example, as we see price, kind of consolidating, not a whole lot of movement. We're expecting, some sort of move either way, whether to the downside or upside. We're just looking for, just where price action is going to go. So let me zoom in here some and just show a very simple way I like to find my entries, just using a common Fibonacci tool. Of course, I'll anchor it here from the high. Let me move this over some. So I have it anchored from the high to the low here. And we have our signal here. We have, the price slowly moving up, the momentum outside of the volatility bands. And then finally we see it cross back into it here. And then what happens? We have a range that is created. 61.8 is a very popular level. For me personally, I just like to find the 50% of the range to use the premium and discount side of the range to find entries. Many times I will just find a candle high if it's in the premium to just enter into. So we see this very first candle high in the premium side. Could very well have entered just above there as it takes the liquidity of that candle into the premium side. And again, we now have our bias towards the downside with the momentum bands crossing into the volatility bands, range created, retracement into premium, and then of course a strong sell-off as we see here. And you can find previous lows such as all of these to take profits from. Would have been an incredible trade. And now let me actually add another indicator vault indicator here, which works very well with the momentum or momentous volatility bands. Okay, and here I've added the top bottom finder and just a very quick overview of this. The yellow lines, or the yellow part of the line here, indicating that we might see a top being formed and that downward momentum is coming in. And then the blue is vice versa, that a bottom has been formed and we could see, price move to the upside. And look in this example, how well it correlates with the momentous volatility bands. You always, for the top bottom finder, you always want to see price move away from this line, and then see a signal. So we see an expansion above it, and then we have the signal here turning yellow, indicating, okay, this might be a top formed in the market. We then, right after that, 2 candles later, just see the red line crossing below the volatility bands, indicating momentum is also shifting to the downside based on this indicator. And so then again, the fib to find our zone to trade from, and perfect entry, barely hangs around into the premium side of the range. So if you just entered there at the premium, maybe a stop above here, even if you didn't want to take all these lows as far as take profits, these indicators work great. Momentum volatility bands, we see the red cross back into here. After a strong expansive move, you could have waited for that signal to form, and then maybe just wait for more information as far as like another move to the upside or a stronger move to the downside. And then, of course, if you want to just use a top bottom finder, we then see the next signal form here, basically catching, the end of this move before another strong move down. All right, and now for this next example, we are in the ES 60-minute chart, the hour chart here, and using just another confirmation, just the parabolic SAR, support and resistance indicator, very popular one to also find some momentum in price action. And we can basically just rinse and repeat, finding a range, finding a zone to trade from once we get our confirmations to the downside. And I'll zoom in on this price action here. We see this sell alert coordinate with the red line crossing below here. So again, we've seen the momentum staying above the volatility bands for a little while, but we're waiting for confirmation. We finally get that here. And then what also forms? A price range. Get this price levels away. Actually, I can put it there. Since that is the current high, creates a range here with this low, pokes above it, and then as price is going into the premium side, what do we have here? The parabolic SAR is now showing, momentum to the downside is occurring. Another great entry, barely hangs around in the premium before a strong move down. You could have taken profits at this low, but let's say you want to find another entry. Good risk management. I personally would have taken most of my position off at this low, but if I'm believing this low is going to be taken, I would have had to sit through a lot of this. So I personally would have just taken most of my trade off here, got this strong move, very quick move down, and then probably moved it to break even. But, there's nothing here. Sure, we do see, the momentous volatility bands print a signal here, but it's also conflicting with the parabolic SAR at the moment. So just in my opinion, there's just not enough information yet to, see which way it's going to go from here, at least after this consolidation phase. But then what do we see here? We see it barely gets over it, but we do have the orange momentum band above it here as well. But we do see a cross here. And now correlating with some downward momentum here with the parabolic SAR. So again, just another find the current range, price is in. This low to this high, retraces back into premium, never takes this high. Hangs around a little bit more than it does here, but we see another strong move. We don't see this low taken. This is the main low, the main target looking at, but still another great move here. And then just rinse and repeat the same as well. Let me actually remove the Fibonacci. Let's say you got in, somewhere here, caught this move down. And then what do we see again? We see momentum, after a brief move up, which is mostly consolidation. We then see a cross again correlating with this alert here, right as the parabolic SAR is also telling us some downward momentum is coming. Let me zoom in. So we just find the range that price is in, which is this high to this low here. Price retraces. First touch is perfectly, wicking away from the 61.8. This one would have, been scary. It definitely is, at a lower time frame was a very strong, on the 5-minute or 15-minute, very strong, large up candle, which would have been, a little scary seeing this. But we have our confirmations. Good risk management is probably just putting a stop above here, and then if it takes it, you just wait for more confirmation. You don't try and immediately get in afterwards. But then finally, again, after momentous volatility bands, giving us, a sign that we could see the downward movement again. Just a candle later, parabolic SAR also confirming that. We find our range, price retraces into it, and then finally we see that strong move taking out this low, that we've been looking for ever since up here. And this entire time have found, 1, 2, 3 signals that have given great trades, just a simple confirmation like a parabolic SAR and fib retracements. So each of these, if you've taken partials along the way and, moved your stops to break even, just from here, down to here, all of this would have been, very profitable if you're just looking for sells, which was very clear based on just those two indicators. Then, of course, super long-term hold would have been here. What we see, obviously, the parabolic SAR telling us even more downward momentum. This strong move. Finally, we do see the momentous volatility bands crossing here with this buy and a little bit of a move up here. So very simple. You don't have to make it complicated. Just a couple confirmations with maybe another indicator, and then especially just finding premium and discount ranges of current zones for, great entries. So I hope this video was helpful, and until next time, best of luck trading.